right, and rolling. So we go live twice here, guys. It's Money Church Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Pastor Dr. Reverend Jay-morrison, and this is our online platform, again, called Money Church Mondays, with an S. It's the spirituality of economics and how to live rich in real life. And we say rich around here. We're not talking about paper money. We are talking about currency, though. But we're talking about rich meaning currency, meaning frequency, meaning vibrations, meaning how operating at the highest energy, right? And so as a 39-year-old black man in America, African man in America, who's been through and made it out of poverty, who's been through and made it out of prison, who's been through and made it out of 10 years in the streets, on the corners, on the highways, in the trap, in the projects, in many different cities, and then making it through entrepreneurship, this very difficult thing we do called business ownership and entrepreneurship, and making it through these different journeys and verticals in my life. I've been able to extract some game, some alignment, some spiritual alignment, a calling, and an anointment, and I want to share that anointment and that calling with you all because it's my duty, it is my job, it is my obligation to operate at my highest frequency in my real life, right? So today's subject matter and lecture on this Money Church Monday, again, share this, like, comment, do all those things. Let's get the chat buzzing. 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday. Tonight's topic is going to be how to live life at your highest frequency. Now, we always talk about highest frequency on Money Church Mondays in general, but I want to talk about how we specifically identify King J, Pastor Reverend Dr. J.D. Morrison. Please define for me what the highest frequency looks like. Please define that for us today. So my goal today for us is to give a definitive answer and clarity on how you embrace, how you adopt, and how you recognize what the highest energy is in this universe and how you continue to strive to live towards that standard. I posted something on my Instagram to drive some traffic to tonight's message. And it was a tweet that I put up, and it essentially said, anyone could be ignorant. Like, being ignorant is not easy. And if there's children watching this, please close your ears. If there's parents watching this, this is unlike any other church because we curse around here. This is plain Jane, straight talk from your brother to you, trying to give a concise message to a wide variety of audiences. It's not about religion. This is not about a denomination. This is not about what you call God, Jesus, Allah, Jehovah, Jah, the Creator, Mother Earth. It's not about none of those semantics. It's about your walk and about, do you have a daily walk, and does the energy exude out of you that you are living rich and operating at your highest frequency? And so words that we've made up to call them curse words, I don't believe change our frequency. I believe they help articulate our expression. But what's more important than words are the deeds of a man, or the works of a man. And so, many of us, and I'm talking about specifically this message is for those who can relate, but those who might be lost or know someone that's lost or caught up in their ignorance or in the trap or in the hood. And I'm specifically talking to my younger self and those who can relate. Because I remember it's only been probably since 31, 32 years old, about 2012, that I actually started operating at my highest frequency and following my calling. So I'm 39 years old. It's only been about 7-8 years that I've been in that space. So that means that there was 32 years of my life, where most of my adult life, where I didn't give a fuck, where I was operating in my ignorance and in the glory of my ignorance. That's the whole thing. See, when you come up in the hood in the trap, it's not that you just don't give a fuck when you activated ignorance. It's that we indulge in our ignorance. Like, we are proud, coming from the hood. We are proud of our ignorance. We are proud of our adopting and embracing our environment and all that it entails and all we must do to get through it. And we excuse many of our low frequency vibrations in the hood. Whether that means calling our women bitches, whether that means womanizing, whether that means selling drugs to family members, aunts, uncles, whomever, whether that means robbing, stealing, killing, whether that means all the things that happen in these inner city environments where we say like, what's going on in Baltimore? What's going on in Chicago? What's going on in Newark, New Jersey? What's going on here in Atlanta? Why are there robberies, there car thefts, carjacking? How are people not caring about their lives or the lives of other people's? Because they have embodied and embraced a low frequency of not giving a fuck, right? And it takes some special self-reflection, and it takes some work, right? It's very easy to not give a care. It is very easy to let go. Just like it's harder to stay in shape, and it's very easy to just eat what you want and just embellish the fact that you're going to be fat and sloppy and just unhealthy, and you're going to eat fried foods and chips and ice cream and no vegetables, right? It's very easy to adopt these low frequencies. It's the high frequencies that take work. That's why they're higher. It takes work to fly. It don't take much work to crawl and slime on your belly. To be low does not take much effort from us. But to soar, to climb mountains, to climb trees, to go above, to go to higher heights, it actually takes some real freaking work. So I want to define this for us. How to live life at our highest frequency. So a couple things led to this message. One thing which really drove it home, I was watching the Oscars last night. So many of you guys know my wife is Mrs. Ernestine Morrison. She's a full-time actress and poet and director, producer, and very, very engrossed and very, very influential in the media, film community, right? The Hollywood community. And so we're watching the Oscars last night by force, but I enjoyed it. And I forgot the gentleman's name. King Gene, if you could research it for me, it's the guy at the end. He won Best Actor, right? One of the biggest awards of the night was Best Actor. And he gave a speech, and he talked about something that drove this home. I was already thinking about this, but what he drove home and what he talked about, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he essentially said, Joaquin Phoenix. And what he essentially said was this: it doesn't matter if we're talking about racism or sexism, or whether we're talking about not killing animals or taking care of the earth and the environment, like all these good things, right? And he said, it does not matter. He said they all have one common thing involved, and that's about justice, right? And operating at a high frequency. And what bigger than justice, he also mentioned, whether it be not being sexist, not being racist, protecting the rights of animals, protecting the rights of plants, protecting the rights of the ecosystem, protecting the rights of the earth, right? These basic rights. Like, I remember being in 5th grade and we used to do cleanups and we adopted whales. And I remember being young and crying when I saw bums in the streets and dressed in homelessness. What makes an activist an activist? Why do people choose these different acts of activism? What is that thing that makes someone want to fight for a just cause, right? No matter what that just cause is, it may be different for everyone else, but there's a commonality to it. There's a human commonality to it. There's a universal frequency to all those things, no matter what it is that you might adopt as your cause. That thing boils down to empathy. Love is the center of it all, and compassion. This, my friends, here on Money Church Monday, again, 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday, your pastor, Reverend Dr. J.D. Morrison, and no, I'm not a real pastor or doctor, but I'm serving my purpose and giving you my words through my ministry. Love, compassion, empathy, these are the greatest of our attributes. Love is the highest and greatest frequency that we have here in the universe. I want to read you a couple things. a quote by Rhonda Byrne. There is no greater power in the universe than love. And I'm going to prove it to you in a minute. This is our highest frequency. The hardest thing that we can do, the easiest thing we can do is hate. Easiest thing we can do is be jealous. The easiest thing we can do is be pissed off, be vindictive, be vengeful. The easiest thing we can do is to hurt people. The easiest thing we can do is to gossip about people. The easiest thing we can do is character assassinate people. The hardest thing we can do is love. Another thing I want to read for you. There is no greater power in the universe than the power of love. The feeling of love is the highest frequency you can emit. If you could wrap every thought in love, if you could love everything and everyone, your life would be transformed. Again, Rhonda Byrne. Why I'm saying that, and I have another piece I want to give us, actually a verse from the Bible. You know we use Bible verses from time to time. But again, we're non-religious, non-denominational. I don't care how you see the universe, God, the creator, Mother Nature, Allah, Jehovah, Jah, Jesus. It does not matter. It's about us understanding that there's a higher frequency out there for us. And a higher frequency that has us here for a higher purpose than what many of us have adopted. Your purpose is not you. Right? So I'm going to come back to this Bible verse in a second. But first, I want to write it down for us. So I want to Google and look up and search the word love. I love breaking down words so we can get real context. So there's a Bible verse, John 15:13. And for all my trappers out there, all my people in the hood, my people that's just on Instagram, just kind of strolling and perusing, stay with me for a second. You're going to elevate out this message tonight. This message is meant for you. You're not here by accident. You're here on purpose. The universe designed you to be here. That's something that told you to click and be here. It's for a reason. But many times we run from the good shit that challenges us to elevate ourselves, and we rather cling towards the ignorant shit because it's easy. Because you know that if I'm challenging you and I'm telling you what's right, you now have a decision to make in order to adopt what you know is right for your life, or to be ignorant, whether it be intentionally or otherwise, and go out and live a lower frequency life. You gotta do the hard work. It all boils down to the hard work. The shit ain't easy. John 15:13 says, greater love, excuse my writing, guys. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for friends, or for his friends. I'm going to come back to this. John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for friends. And part of my sloppy writing, but you get the gist. So I want to look up love, and I want to break down this verse in just a second. Let's look at what the definitions of love actually are. Again, this is the highest frequency in the universe, and I'm going to prove it. Yeah, G, you got a bacon in here. I feel like a rotisserie chicken in here. All right, love definition. Let's see. A feeling of warmth, personal attachment, or deep affection for someone as a parent, child, or friend. To have love or affection, and it's not giving me anything that I really love. Emotion, tenderness, fondness, respect, friendship, devotion, prize, treasure, etc. So let me go back to this frequency. How I know love is the ultimate frequency is because love represents an energy that has the highest sacrifice. So essentially what this Bible verse is saying, there's no greater love. It's really there's no greater sacrifice that a person can make to lay down their life for that than the lives of others. This is how I know love is the highest frequency we got to operate off of. Whether that be love for your community, and you're willing to risk your freedom and your life for the advancement of your community. Whether it be the love for animals, and you're willing to lay down in front of trucks, or you're willing to disrupt the system where animals are being affected, right? Whether that means making a sacrifice to possibly your freedom or your health in order to protect animals or the universe or whatever, or the ecosystem, or whatever it is that your cause is that God, the universe, the energy called you to do. There's always a thing in which we are all charged to operate at our highest level, which is love. There's always a thing. When you're operating at a low frequency is when you are totally being ignorant and you are abandoning that calling to go love something or someone greater than yourself. And it's usually a cause. So how I know this is the highest frequency is because when you are operating in your ignorance, your low frequency, and you don't give a care, when you're operating like that, your highest priority is you. You're operating from a selfish perspective when love is very much selfless. So how we exhibit love in works, not words, right? How we exhibit love in works, not words, is by, excuse me. All right. So how we exhibit love in works is by our actions and our sacrifice. Love in works is equal to your willingness to sacrifice. And not just sacrifice for yourself, but sacrifice for others. It's to sacrifice yourself, your well-being, your comfortability for others. That's how you can measure a man or a woman's actual level of love for any person or any cause. Is what is he or she willing to sacrifice to better protect or advance that cause? That is the ultimate sacrifice. It's the ultimate show of love and the highest frequency in which we can operate as. So for some of us, we get so caught in our own personal bag and we're not thinking about, man, you don't even care about your family. It's the same thing of why a man, even through baby mama drama, through family issues, through out-of-state parenting, but how a man can disassociate and detach himself from his child. It's an intentional thing. A man has to adopt that. You know what? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a care. I am literally lowering my frequency to detach myself from something that and someone that I made. That's how it's all this, not just single parent households, but I'm talking about absentee fathers. Love, even if you're an out-of-state dad, a broke out-of-state dad, love would still have you sacrifice all that you can in order to be as much as you can be to that child. The love would show through your works. It's no different than how I can explain to you love being the highest frequency, it being that those who are willing to risk their lives in war for the love of country, is that I'm willing to put my life, the only one I ever got, the one I know I got, on the line to protect other people, and not even other people, but to protect the thought, the borders of, and the fabric of a nation. I'm willing to lay down my life for that and discount and possibly disqualify the one life I have because of this love for country. Is no different than many of us as fathers or as parents when we think about our children, or husbands who think about our wives. And there is not even a split second or second guess of if there were an oncoming something and it were in my range or reach and it were to injure or hurt my child or my wife, there's no shadow of a doubt of what my first and only instinct will be to protect my wife and my children at all costs, even at the expense of my own health, life, or freedom, right? So that proves what the highest energy is. Anyone can pull a trigger and kill someone else out of anger, revenge, or fear. Anyone can punch somebody in the face or smack somebody. Anyone can hurt someone else out of emotion. Fear, anger, resentment, those aren't even the highest energies. The highest energy is you willing to hurt you. You willing to take away your own only life in order to help advance the lives of others. That is the highest frequency in which we can live on. It's not just sacrifice, I'm saying, but it's the frequency of love, of empathy, of compassion. And so, you guys see me as Jay Morrison, a little more mature, a little more evolved, a little more elevated, but this has been a process, and I'm still not done. I still struggle, like everybody else. I'm not preaching perfection here. But what I'm saying is that I intentionally, over the last 8 years, made a decision to constantly evaluate myself, but I'm measuring myself to the litmus test of, are you operating in the highest spirit, the highest frequency, and are you operating out of unconditional love? Are you operating out of compassion? Are you operating out of empathy for that of others? So sometimes that empathy and that compassion and that love might mean that you know someone is bugging out and they're wrong. But you got to figure out some creative way to try to maneuver through their bullshit and their trauma and their wrong to still love them greater than they love themselves, or they might even love you. That's our highest frequency, whether it be community, whether it be whatever level of activism, whatever level of calling that you have. But it needs to be around how you can be selfless and help to empower, help to uplift, and help to enlighten others. Like that's our gift. That's our calling. That's everybody's job while here. It's not just to be self-serving and just to enjoy what you have. That is the lowest frequency we can have, is to say, I'm just going to take care of me and mine while I'm here and make minimal sacrifice and raise my frequency minimally, because it's hard work to then elevate. Because you know why? With more love, with more empathy, with more compassion comes more responsibility. And that's the hard work that most people want to run from, is a responsibility of actually having to do for others. Like, you create a commitment. When you get into loving other people at a high level and wanting to see people healed, like when I see like the young boys in the corner selling the waters and with no belts on and sagging their pants and with peasy hair and just and without a proper presence and without proper, business etiquette, my heart goes out to them. I've been in that space and I know what they need to survive and to be better. And so it forces me to have to do something. No different than when I see homeless people, or when I see just any person or situation, my heart usually instinctively is at some kind of level of compassion. Not saying you can solve everybody's problems, not saying you have to do it solely at your detriment. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we all have an obligation to challenge ourselves, to raise our frequency, right? And to in this one lifetime, to operate as God would, or Allah, or Jehovah, or Jah, or the universe would have us operate. And that's at the highest universal energy. And that highest universal energy is about taking care of the needs of others. Like, that's our thing. Like, every being in the universe has a duty, as a job. Like, the bees make the honey from the pollen, from the plants, from the circle of life, the whole Lion King shit. Well, we got a job in the circle of life. And as the most intelligent beings on earth, and as the most empathetic beings on earth, the ones that God gave empathy and compassion, we have an obligation to be able to tap in to that compassion. I believe that everyone, no matter what their trauma, no matter what their past, no matter what their abuse is, everyone has a conscience and has a voice, except for some people that might be super, super sick and sociopathic and psychopaths. Outside of that, majority of people have some level of conscience, some level of thing that instinctively, a GPS that tells you how to behave, how to treat someone. It usually is instinctively, but typically our rational side, our front mind overrides our spiritual side. So we know the thing to do, the place to go, or what not to do, but many times we embrace what we rationally have told ourselves we should do because the other part doesn't make sense. So that's the other part, is that in operating at your highest frequency, it's not always going to make sense for your rational self. It's not going to always be a what's next and what's next and what's next and how does it all play out for me. All you know is that it feels right, is that it's your instinct, that you were told it was your intuition, that it was your conscience. Like that's the universe, like that's your calling. When your conscience calls you, it tells, like for years, I was telling someone, for years, like since my early 20s, I knew that I could speak, I knew that I could write, I knew that I could teach, but it was just some corny shit to do coming out of the hood. Nobody was no authors and speakers and lecturers and teachers and trying to empower other people. It was about what I adopted, what my rational self adopted was get rich or die trying. It was money over everything. And that was the mentality that I forced myself to embrace. My spirit, the way I was born, the way that the DNA, the way I was created, my conscience, the highest frequency in me was always there. But I would bury it to mask it because it was harder work to be that person in my environment because then I would be different than everybody else. So many times in the hood and urban environments, or even in our workplace, or even in our church or mosque or wherever, we adopt the culture that's around us and try to stand in and fit in instead of stand out. So for me and for those coming out of our urban environments, it's like it's really easy to be a savage. It's really easy to be ratchet. It's really easy to succumb to the peer pressure, how we're supposed to live and who we're supposed to be. And that's supposed to be my nigga, and it's supposed to be my bitch, and it's supposed to be these things that make us cool or at least aligned within this low frequency. Because when you elevate my king and you elevate my queen and you walking different and you talking different and you loving and treating people different, the people in the low frequency are going to feel uncomfortable because your light is shadowing, is casting a light on their shadow, on their darkness, on their low frequency. That's why the dark and the light, as we talked about last week, don't get along well. So many of us, when we're in these environments where we're outnumbered, in prison, or in a trap, or with our boys, or in high school, or in college, or whatever it is, we adopt a frequency that we know ain't our frequency. We know deep down we're just a better person than that. But we don't want to feel like we're better than someone, but right now your frequency just might be at a better level. And so it's up to us. No one can really force you to adopt like who God wants you to be. Only God, only the universe, only Allah, only Jehovah, only Jah, only Jesus, only Mother Nature, whatever you see, him, hit, whatever. So what I've learned and what I want to kind of give you from my life testimony, which is all part of this, I want to share with you be vulnerable and transparent, my life journey, my testimony. But what I've learned on my journey, because I went through all those phases of what was cool and what was acceptable in the culture. Like even 4 years ago when we adopted the term kings and queens to elevate our people, like nobody was doing that. That shit wasn't cool. That wasn't the it thing to do. And so no matter what circles or environments I'm in, I mean, I'm with global rap stars, I'm with NBA, NFL, Pro Bowlers and all that. I'm in parties, clubs, whatever environment that I'm in, I'm still always trying to stand on and stand in my highest frequency so that I cannot shed light or frustrate others, but so I can be an example and help raise the frequency of everybody else. To show you that, we might dress the same. We might like some of the same things. We might eat nice restaurants. We all might, make money, do well for ourselves or whatever that might be. But I can operate a little more elevated in that space. And not elevated based on a religious culture, but elevated on basically just a conscious culture. Being conscious of myself, being conscious of my calling, being conscious of my anointment, being conscious of the higher frequency I know I gotta operate in. And I've tried, I do it. I screw up sometimes. Sometimes I know, like for instance, one of the biggest times is with my wife. So my wife will often tell me something that I know is the right thing to do. Because when she says it, it feels right and it feels good. But because it was her that told me, I don't want to do this shit. And so so then, because of my macho, whatever, ignorance, because the energy, the frequency came through a vessel, I didn't want to hear it. It came through my wife, and I don't want to hear it from my wife. So then I go against the best frequency and best energy, and then I pay the consequences later. Wifey said, I don't think we should do that. I don't think we should go there. My spirit just telling me, stay away. And then here I am, overriding the shit. Because now I'm dealing in pride, and I'm dealing in ego, and I'm dealing in ignorance. I'm dealing with rationale. I'm dealing with other emotions. Have you ever did business with someone where everything in you told you you shouldn't have done business with them? Have you ever dated someone where you knew it wasn't right no matter how good they looked or how good it felt? But you knew in your spirit it just wasn't aligned and it wasn't right? Our ability and your ability to pivot and make those decisions, those hard decisions against your rationale, against your emotions, against the physical feeling, against the potential financial benefit, but your ability to make a decision based on what's right, what you know. I'm not talking about that second feel good. See, there's two kind of feel goods. We can trick ourselves. There's a frequency that will tell us something is right, and you can almost talk yourself and manipulate that frequency to make it seem as if your second decision was just as right or good as the first frequency. That's bullshit. I've done that before too. Where you're like almost on frequency, but you like a frequency under the frequency. You want to manipulate it a little bit so it feels a little better for you and for your personal liking. We can't, I'm telling you just from experience on some OG shit, some big bro shit, some mentor shit, advisor, friend, whatever you want to see me. I'm just telling you from real game and real life. I've literally had distinct, defined intuitions that have told me what to do, and every time I went against it, it was problems. Even if they weren't an immediate problem. It might have been looked good from the beginning. Might have felt good from the beginning. Sometimes we will make those instinctive judgment calls, and you don't even feel the consequences of it. It might have just set something off in your whole life track that you didn't even know. You were set up for a move 33 months from now, and you blew it. You fucked up a move 33 months from now, and you don't even know that you blew it, but you blew it. You'll never even feel it. But the universe already had it lined up for you. The frequency was already set. All you had to do was adopt and just ride the frequency. Just ride the wave. The frequency will tell you everything about how you got to move. You'll know off first instinct if somebody's spirit is right. If you should go in there, something told me don't go in there. Then why the fuck did you go in there? Something already told you. Embrace the feeling, embrace the frequency. But I'm saying how you get aligned in that frequency is by you first adopting a being, a way of being that is rooted in love and empathy and compassion. It's not rooted in bullshit. Like, that's how you get there. You get there by getting past all your drama, all your trauma, all your hurt, all your ignorance, all your selfishness. Like, all that stuff that we build up, and you got to somehow fight through, go over, go under, and be willing to be mature enough to embody like who your best self is. And that mean person ain't your best self. That passive-aggressive, sarcastic, nice, nasty person, that ain't your best self. And you know that ain't your best self. That person that likes to stir up and plant seeds and cause strife and all that, that ain't your best self. Like, we got to get rooted and tapped in and keep challenging ourselves to just operate at our best self and not just for self. Because that's your proper place. It's not for the benefit of what you get out of it. Like, your highest energy, that's where you're supposed to be. That's your optimal performance. But it only comes with sacrifice. It only comes with hard work. Whether you take a Kobe Bryant, rest in power, or other top-level players in their fields, there's a certain level of commitment and discipline and sacrifice they all operated with to be at the highest frequency in their craft. It's no different than in real life. You just can't lollygag through life at your highest frequency. It's going to require some work and some sacrifice and some discipline. And so that's my challenge here in Money Church. That's my challenge on my daily walk. That's my wife and I's challenge. That's the challenge of all those, my friends in my network. Is like, how do we raise our frequency? And it comes from honest self-reflection is one start to that. I remember when I was literally fighting on the front line for our people. I mean, I was out there like activism, cops on a roof with sniper guns and cops with riot gear and risking my freedom and my life on the front line fighting for our people, but would still have a conversation with my boys and refer to all women as bitches. Just in casual conversation, no malice intended. But my frequency was still low. So it's like, in one hand, I was operating from a level of servitude and high frequency, but from another hand, I still wasn't growing and elevating, right? I wasn't really truly adopting like all who I'm like God really wants me to be. I was picking and choosing my frequency, right? I was picking and choosing the parcels of how I want to operate. And so for me, my experience has been to embody it. And I've made that commitment years ago of my level of willingness to sacrifice for my community, willing to sacrifice for the women in my community, sacrifice in general for my community. And I really believe there's a calling within me. I believe there is a first priority to help rebuild, restore, and unify my direct community and village. But I believe there's a calling within me to really figure out how to bridge all kinds of healing and love and biasness and bigotry. I feel like my ultimate frequency really is, and I hate the term humanitarian because it's so watered down, but I really feel like my heart's that big. But I do understand that there was a clear, concise calling for God, from God, for me to help his people and my people. And so that's first priority. But I don't do that with bigotry, with hate, with prejudice, or with any of those things in mind, right? So I don't adopt the habits of those who are oppressors and bigots and all and supremacists. I don't adopt those habits because then again, that is opposite my frequency. So it's all about how we maneuver against the forces of evil, if you will, but still move in our highest frequency and our highest phase. But the biggest piece is, if we can't stand on our own too and be you, a new you, an elevated you, a different you, in the midst of friends, of peers, of company. I try my best not to change. It doesn't matter if I'm around business professionals, or if I'm around activists, or if I'm around celebrity, or if I'm around whomever. I try my best to stay on my frequency, stand on my square, and just be who I am. And just deliver mine how I deliver mine. And so, I'm just unapologetically me. And unapologetically in love with my people and backing my love with works for the advancement of my people. But for all of us, our frequency litmus test is, what are you willing to sacrifice? Who are you willing to sacrifice for? And are you willing to follow your instinct, to follow your first mind, your first intuition, even when it's not clear on the other end if it makes sense or not? That's how I'm telling you like a secret. I don't care if this helps 12 people or 2 or 1,200. I'm telling you a secret to finding your calling, finding your purpose, finding your why, and really get at a space in life where it's just different. Like, I go through headache days, I go through drama days, I go through cloudy days, like all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody else. I have second guesses and doubts and all that. But what always kind of keeps me back on track is realigning and understanding who and what I'm doing it for, and realizing that there's just a greater purpose and a greater use for my life. And we all have that. And that higher frequency shit makes things, again, it makes your life much, much better when you're living and operating, and you're going to be challenged. Because sometimes you're going to want to dumb that frequency down and do some things. But for my young kings out there, my young queens out there, like that's surrounded by a bunch of distractions, a bunch of chaos, a bunch of what has been perpetuated as cool for you, you got to ask yourself, man, like, what's your real moral compass? Like, what's your real values? Like, my grandma, and I want to give this tribute to my grandma, who's 80 years old now, and she was just diagnosed with dementia. And my grandma told me, Jay, do what's right because it's right. And that was like her famous saying, like, just do what's right just because it's right. And so a lot of times, like, say if I'm walking down the hall and I drop $1,000 out of my pocket, most of us out the hood like, yo, you slipping. That's a come up. That's a low frequency. Because you know that's not right. You saw that man's money, that woman's money fall out their purse, fall out their pocket. You know that's their money. Now you might be poor and hungry and hurting right now. So you excuse your frequency to say, man, I'm fucked up right now. Like, I got to feed my family. But how do you know, following your best mind, that you return that $1,000 to that person and they say, yo, for blessing me, take $3,000. Or maybe they don't even give you a reward. But you never know that 6 months later, your child was in emergency surgery. And it just so happens the person you gave the money back to was a doctor that got your child ahead in the surgery. You just don't know. You can't predict universal frequency. So a lot of times we make up reasons to justify our bullshit. Like no different than when I was a drug dealer for 10 years. Like we constantly told ourselves that, well, if I don't sell them drugs, somebody gonna do it. We constantly justify why it was okay to destroy our community. We constantly justify why it was okay to sell to family members, knowing that our parents was getting high and we hated the shit. That's operating at a low frequency when God had a whole world of entrepreneurship for me. Like I honestly think about adopting my calling back when I was 17 when he gave me a chance. Back when I was in my early 20s when he gave me a chance. Back in my mid-20s when he gave me a chance. I'd be so much further ahead in life, but I couldn't see it. And so this Money Church Monday is all about giving you guys some game, my testimony, my journey, to help somebody see it earlier than I got to see it. That's my contribution back. It's because, yo, if you see it early and you embody it early, you won't know what's 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the line. That's why I respect him so much about Isaac Grace. It's not because he's just like a jay-morrison-academy protege. It's not the fact that he's young baby Jay, handsome and swaggy. It's not the fact that he's 26 and did over 71 real estate deals. It's not the fact that he built a $900,000 company by 25 years old. It's none of those resume facts. What I like about Isaac Grace is his spirit, and I watched him in the streets, and I saw he had a good energy in him, but that environment and the culture was just calling him, and he just didn't, and he finally did, but he just took him a minute to break through. But now to watch him at 26, broken through, serving people, volunteering for youth days, coaching football teams, being a good parent to his children, like those things, like holding down the fam, moms, grandma, like those extra things, like doing the hard work that nobody wants to do, that calling your grandma every week because you know you really should, because nobody's calling her, like the little things that don't have a direct reflect on your bank account, on you. It's not about you. It's all about how you can impact and serve others. And you gotta trust the shit gonna come around. It always come around. That's the universal law, and that's operating rich at the highest frequency, is doing the right thing just because it's right. Like having integrity, not what's on front and in camera and in front of somebody, but behind the scenes, behind the camera. Like you should take pride in that. Like that's always been principles I've been able to take pride in. I just used them in the street. So when I got locked up at 18 years old and was facing 3 years of life in prison, the night I got incarcerated with a quarter kilo of coke and a loaded .38 handgun, I took the weight, I took the charge. I had a co-defendant, I had somebody driving me, but it wasn't their product. It was my trip. They weren't going to make no money off my 255 grams. It wasn't their gun, it was mine. So that night, instead of dragging him through the whole system, it was a college kid, a friend of mine, who actually got locked up years later on a robbery charge, which is fucking crazy. Because I'm like, damn, you don't get locked up years later on a robbery charge. We could have just figured that shit out back then. But the point is, I still had to operate in my own frequency. So my own frequency was, my shit is not yours. I got to hold mine down. Operate that way. Or whether it's my friends who went away, who had family, who had money, who had whatever. Nothing's missing. Everybody's taken care of. We all should be doing what we're supposed to do and what we know is right just because it's right, not because of direct benefit. It's not about like, I'll do what's right if you pay me. I'll do what's right if you compensate me. Like, there's no man-made compensation that can really, truly, fully reward you for doing what's right because it's right. It's about us stepping up and just operating at the highest frequency, operating rich, because, that's what the fuck we supposed to do. Like, we know that. You know you're supposed to be elevated. You know you're supposed to have a light energy. We know it. We instinctively, I just truly believe that as human beings, except for those who are truly with chemical imbalances, we truly know the right way to move. We know what's rational. We know what's the right thing to do. That's why I believe so much could be accomplished within our culture if we all just lift our frequency. We just get caught up on the shit that's popping on the gram or what's trending. Even if it's low frequency, we just buy into the shit because it's cool, but like that shit don't win. I'm about to win at the end of the day. That was my wake up video was all about. It's cool to be the best dressed, to be the swaggiest, think about in 8th grade or high school, middle school, the class clown. It's cool to be the class clown, you're popular. It's cool to be the best dressed. It's cool to be the most flirtatious. I had many of those designations coming through school. But it didn't amount in me actually graduating on time, or didn't amount in me having the best GPA, or didn't amount in me having the best credibility with my teachers. The cool card ain't always the best card, bro. It's not the long-term card. The best card is us operating at our highest frequency, even against an environment where ain't nobody operating at a higher frequency. Because at the end of the day, you got to be accountable for your shit when you stand before whomever you're going to stand before. What somebody else eat don't make you shit. What somebody else, if you operate at low frequency, you go to prison, you do that time. When you stand before God, Allah, Jehovah, Jah, Jesus, the universe, when your spirit is up at the end of this shit and you leave out your physical body and your spirit's floating around wherever it goes, there's going to be some energy atonement going on. We all responsible for how we act, for what we embody. And we can trick ourselves and tell ourselves what we're doing is right, and we know damn well that shit ain't right. And so I want to challenge everyone to constantly challenge yourself to raise your frequency. Like, challenge yourself. Like, get off your bullshit. And stop tricking yourself. That was like one of my most famous things. I'm so smart, I could trick myself and then make myself think like I'm like. But as we grow, we mature, we know what's right, we know what's good. And we know it's the best frequency for us, and we know that there's something special in all of you. It just takes something or someone to bring it out. Hopefully I could be that someone in this moment or in future lectures, etc. But with that, I ain't gonna hold this long. I want to wrap our Money Church Mondays, again, 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday. It's all about the spirituality, economics, how to live rich in real life. I don't believe in us going out here and flipping a bunch of houses, wholesaling a bunch of real estate, owning a bunch of commercial property, starting a bunch of businesses, and doing well financially, but our insides are impure, man, because we passing that down to our kids and to our women. Like, if we can have a healthy relationship with our wives or our significant others or our husbands, we can have a significant or the proper relationship with our children, with our extended family, and then with our friends and our coworkers, man. We all gotta we gotta fix that shit. Like, this is self-repair, especially within the black community. It's self-repair. We can't wait for some mythical figure to save us, some new leader to save us, or for our oppressor to come save us and repair us. We got to repair ourselves, and we got to recognize that we've been traumatized, and that's why again, little things matter. Your words matter. What we call ourselves matter. How we treat ourselves matter in our elevation. So thank you guys for entertaining me this Money Church Monday, Black History Year, Black History Life. I mean, ain't no Black History Month around here. It's Black History Life at the Black House. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I'll see you next Monday. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Make sure you guys share this, comment, like it. Again, it's all about just bringing a different light and different energy to the culture as we move forward and make advancements and do all the swaggy, rich shit and have fun and love our beautiful wives and go on vacations, do all the cool shit. Nobody saying don't be cool, don't have fun. But try to do that shit at the highest frequency, caring about others, loving others, having empathy and compassion for other people. Like even other people that might be outside your race, outside your gender, even other species outside your human species. All that shit. Like, let's keep raising the bar. Money Church Monday, MCM every Monday. I'm Jay Morrison, Pastor, Dr. Reverend J.D. Morrison. I'll see you guys next Monday. Oh, yes. Big announcement. This Saturday here at the Black House or online, you guys can register for 2 classes, one of 2 classes or both classes. One is wholesaling real estate, how to close your first deal in 90 days. That is how to do no money down deals in 90 days in real estate, wholesaling real estate. Second class, flipping real estate. This is with my protege, Isaac Grace, how to flip homes with no cash and no credit. Real strategies taught here in person at the Black House or online. That's LegacyCenterEvents.com for this special class on flipping and wholesaling. 2-part class this Saturday coming up. Was it February 12th, right? 15th, excuse me. February 15th with the star real estate protege, Isaac Grace, right here from the Black House or streaming live into your home or tablet. LegacyCenterEvents.com. That is flipping real estate, wholesaling real estate. Get the real game from a 26-year-old millennial investor who is crushing the game right now, who give you the latest strategies on how to be effective in the business. All right, guys. I'll see you then. Peace.